Good morning, everybody. We're talking about 5.1 today, decimal notation, order, and rounding. So let's look at some of the skills we're going to need in this section. Look at 4, 5, or 6 examples here. The first one says, one country's currency unit was worth about 0.0137 U.S. currency. So it's 0.0137. All we need to do is write that in terms of words. So what's a word name for this? Just a reminder, let's look at place value as it relates to decimals. So to the left we have ones, tens, hundreds. To the right we have tenths. Second decimal place is a hundredths. And we have a thousandths. And then 10 thousandths, and it keeps going. So we'd have 100,000ths, millions. So looking at this, we have 0.0137. So that's 137. We're just going to write that number as we see it. 137. And we have to figure out the decimal place, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So that would be 10 thousandths. So 137 ten thousandths would be the final answer for that problem. Let's look at the second problem. We start with the number 7.5. We'd like to write that as a fraction, and then also, if possible, to write it as a mixed numeral. I'm going to rewrite it here, 7.5. I'm going to multiply the top by 10, then divide by 10. So really that's multiplying by 1, so it doesn't change the value of the number. 7.5 times 10 is 75. We're going to hang on to the denominator, so that's 10. We get 75 over 10. And that is my fractional form for 7.5. Now, because it's an improper fraction, I can write that as a mixed numeral. We're going to go back and start with 7.5 again. So we can think about that as 7 plus 0.5. 0.5 is 5 over 10. And then we can combine those as a mixed numeral. We get 7 and 5/10. Now, none of these at the beginning are we going to simplify and reduce those, but just keep in mind that could be reduced to 7 and 1/2. So as a fraction, we write it as 75 over 10. As a mixed numeral, we can write it as 7 and 5/10. Let's look at the next problem. Similar to that one. We have 0.0357. Again, we'd like to write it as a fraction, and if possible, write it as a mixed numeral. In this case, we have 0.0357. I'm going to count the number of decimal places. So trying to move this over behind the 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 decimal places. So we'll write the numeral 357. We're going to divide it by 4 zeros. So 357 divided by 10,000. So moved it 4 decimal places in the top, we put 4 zeros in the bottom. Because this is a proper fraction, the numerator is smaller than the denominator, we can't write this as a mixed numeral. So that would be our final form for our answer. Get number 4. Moving into a little different test, we get the fraction 4/10. We'd like to write that as in decimal form. Well, 10th is 1 decimal place. So simply, we just move the decimal point 1 place to the left. So if you divide by 10, you move the decimal point 1 place to the left. You could also divide 10 into 4. You would get the same answer using the skills we learned in previous chapters. Moving into the next one. Here we'd like to know which one of these two numbers is larger. So 0.05 and 0.49. I'm going to write these vertically. And I'm going to look at the digit closest to the decimal point, the tenths place. And if one of those numbers is bigger than the other number, then that's the larger number. So 4 is bigger than 0. So for this problem, 0.49 is going to be bigger than 0.05. We'll look at one more example in this section. Here we're going to talk about rounding. So just remember, if the number that we're looking to round is bigger than or equal to 5, we're going to round up. If it's less than 5, it's going to stay. So in this example, we have 0.13. We want to round to the nearest tenth. So that is this place right here, to the nearest tenth. If I want to round to the nearest tenth, I'm going to look backwards 1 decimal place. Now look at this. If that number is bigger than or equal to 5, I'm going to round up. If it's not, if it's less than 5, I'm going to keep it or stay at the same decimal. So we're rounding to the nearest 1 decimal place. The 3 is smaller than 5, so I'm going to round this to 0.1.